Previously on this channel, we have looked at what were once incredibly popular social MMOs and virtual worlds, including Stardoll, Movie Star Planet, Spark City, and WeWorld, just to name a few. However, there is one that I am yet to cover. It's been requested a couple of times and mentioned in comments of previous virtual world videos, and this is the virtual community of Meez. No, not those Meez. These Meez. Meez was a hugely popular social MMO which ran from 2006 until the late 2010s, when it mysteriously closed without warning or reason. Like many other closed nostalgic social MMOs, the fanbase was left devastated by the loss of their favourite virtual world, and they begged and petitioned for a comeback and for it to return. But unlike the others that are left to only exist in players' memories or left unplayable in the internet archives, could it be that Meez is actually making a comeback? Hi, welcome to today's video. I am Otter. If you have been to my channel before, hello, welcome. It's lovely to see you again. And if you haven't been to my channel before, hello, welcome. It's really lovely to meet you. Today, we are delving into the history and story of the wildly popular Meez MMO of the 2000s. Just as a little disclaimer before we begin, everything I discuss in this video I have found online, in the internet, in forums, in interviews, articles, etc., and have reformatted into a video to tell the story of the Meez MMO. It is in no way intended to harm, insult, or attack anyone who is mentioned in this video. But as usual, before we begin, if you do enjoy this video, please consider dropping it a like, and I am on a mission to reach 2,000 otters by the end of 2024, so it would really mean the world to me if you could help me get there by giving that subscribe button a little click. Let's jump straight on into the history of the Meez social MMO. The story of Meez begins way back in the good old year of 2006. Initially, Meez was not the virtual world it's most known for today. Much like WeWorld, it was mainly known and popular for its avatar creation, which enabled cross-platform integration with other popular instant messaging sites, like MySpace. Its creator was Sean Ryan, who, before venturing into virtual worlds, ran a music subscription service named Rhapsody, which I think was a subservice of the general website that he created and owned called listen.com. This was then acquired in 2003 by Real Networks for $39 million, which, fun fact, would later become Napster. I'm assuming at this point, Sean Ryan, who had experience working in the gaming industry with Sega, saw the increasing popularity of virtual worlds like WeWorld and Second Life. Also popular at the time was the increasing levels of personalization for instant messaging sites, and this also caught Ryan's attention, as he stated in a 2006 interview with Forbes. Ryan says he created Meez, which has raised more than $4.3 million in venture funding to capitalize on the personalization trend that has led US customers to spend some $900 million on ringtones and wallpapers last year. It is apping an existing industry in Korea, where the ultra-wide population is already buying Meez-like avatars and placing them on its cell phone screens, web pages, and instant messaging windows. Once I saw what was going on in Korea and what ringtones were able to accomplish, the decision seemed pretty straightforward, he says. On Sean Ryan's LinkedIn page, it says that his CEO position at Meez began in January of 2005, which we can safely assume is when development of the site began. Meez was also financially backed very well, with $5 million coming from Battery Ventures, a technology investment firm, and Transcosmos, a strategic corporate investor firm. With this huge financial backing, Sean Ryan's company, Donnerwood Media, launched the classic version of Meez just over a year later in March of 2006. This MMO is actually surprisingly difficult to research considering how popular it was and how well it did at the time. I've had to gather a lot of information from many different sources, so if you did play Meez and you were a huge fan of it, or you know more about it possibly than I do, please let me know down in the comments if I do make any mistakes or if there's anything you would like to add to what I say in this video. But what I can safely and confidently say is that the initial classic version of Meez does seem to be the preferred version to later developments, but we'll talk about that specifically a little bit later on. Like all other virtual worlds, Meez was free to play and primarily focused on its avatar creation, with instant messaging in public or private chat rooms and casual games that featured your personalized avatars. This is where the Meez community really grew and spiked in popularity, according to Ryan in an article with Online Product News, to more than 7 million users, which for the first like couple of years for an MMO is pretty huge. The site already had its virtual economy established, coins, where users, also known as Meezes, which cracks me up because I feel like Meezes makes me think of geezers, which it's not old, but it's definitely a more retro term that people use to describe each other. It's like a slang word for like a friend or someone you know. But anyway, you could buy in-game currency in order to customize their character's hair, face, body, outfit, etc. And they already had some pretty huge brand tie-ins with like major sports leagues. I'm pretty sure the like National Baseball League had a sponsorship with them. As part of this early Meez, Meezes could also buy ringtones and wallpapers for anywhere between $1.50 and $2.50, and also a wide range of animations for their avatar to perform. And when I mean wide range, I mean wide range. They're like looking online at the way that people use these animations creatively. There was so many options and different animations that people could buy, and it's literally just for your little avatar in the like top corner of the screen to do on your profile. And I think looking at the price of the wallpaper and ringtones being $1.50 to $2.50, I think that gives a really good indication of like in-game currency and purchasing inflation over the years and how much buying stuff in-game has grown as a concept. The outfits and clothing options are so reminiscent of a specific time in the 2000s. Like Movie Star Planet, I never actually played Meez. I didn't know about it when it was in its prime. I think I kind of knew about it when it was in the 2010s, when I started spending a lot more time online, but I never really engaged with it very much and never thought to play it. But even though I never had an experience with this site, the clothing gives me so much nostalgia. And I feel like I'm gonna get shot down for this by people who are like big fans of Meez or even Movie Star Planet. But I feel like Meez is a combination of WeWorld, IMVU, and Movie Star Planet like mushed together. It seems online that a lot of Meezes prefer to dress in the alternative or scene fashion genre. Ironically, glitching played a big part in creating a successful outfit, with layers of accessories and clothing which combine to make a new look altogether. And I don't know about you guys, but I personally think this is really, really creative. Like, looking at some of these outfits online, it looks like people had to actually put a lot of thought into how they were dressing their separate Meez and then layering them to get a specific look. Like, I feel like it's quite difficult to do 2 separate outfits, maybe even 3 separate outfits, and then combine them together so that they actually look cohesive. And you can really tell that people and the Meezes put a lot of time, effort and money into the site, and it really meant a lot to them. Using his knowledge of the digital music industry, Ryan also added music to be a really big part of the site. Users could add playlists of their favorite songs, YouTube videos, artists and albums, which would show up on their profile, sharing their sort of like music taste and genre preferences with anyone who happened to look at it. There was also a radio in chat rooms where user-chosen tracks would play whilst users chatted. There was definitely a lot of like passion and personal interest in Meez from Ryan as he carried forward an understanding and experience of like online music into this new business. And I think it made up a big part of the site and was a lot of its draw. And I think people really, really loved this element of Meez. Sean Ryan announced the addition of Meez Nation, which morphed the traditional chat room into a digital virtual world for users to communicate in. This was not revolutionary by any means. We know that sites had done this and more before, but for Meezers who regularly use the site, this added a layer of simulation and was probably really exciting. Meez Nation added numerous themed neighborhoods, which created a 3D virtual physical environment for people to enter as a chat room with their avatars and then communicate with each other. They were also known as hoods, and these included Burbia, Chillville, Posh Heights, Metropolitan Uptown, Arcadia, and Hell's Kitchen, which in fact is not Gordon Ramsay themed, much to my disappointment. Users now also had personal spaces called rooms, which I assume was meant to sort of extend upon their like flat profile, which they initially had, and acted as a private chat room. And it now seems that Meez Nation was a really good move from Ryan, as it is now what Meez was most known for. Ryan also explains, the #1 request from our community of more than 7 million users has been to add a virtual world. Meez Nation is a significant addition to our already potent mix of 3D avatars, a virtual economy, and casual games. It will significantly boost user involvement and brand engagement on Meez. Other than the virtual world and the introduction of the Meez Nation, there was also a kickoff event, I guess, which featured 50 Cent's virtual office, an energized environment where fans can listen to a single from his upcoming album, engage in an animated rap battle, and click a link to iTunes to purchase 50 Cent's music, which really reminds me of WeWorld and how WeWorld had so many tie-ins with celebrities, especially artists like Avril Lavigne. They sort of used the site and its popularity to promote and push their new music. And it seems that, like many other social MMOs, advertisements and sponsorships were really crucial in order for Meez to sustain itself. And although they already had like tie-ins and integrations with the clothing, I really think that Meez Nations saved Meez from what could have been an earlier death. A year before Meez Nation was dropped, the website actually made its way onto the Time 2007 top worst websites list. But this was only really on the stance that it slowed down your PC and had a lot of notifications, which seemed like really specific issues that one person had. Also on this list were MySpace and also Second Life. Someone at Time just really wasn't a fan of social MMOs and instant messaging. So whether this was an underlying evaluation and opinion of Meez from outsiders who weren't fans of the sites, or whether it was just an opinion piece that was meant to be controversial to draw in more readers, I'm not sure. But whether you loved it or hated it, Meez Nation became a major draw for the website, and according to a VentureBeat article, a year later in June 2009, for online destination sites in the US, Meez managed to hit #1 in engagement at 36.4 minutes per user according to market research media metric. So Meez was literally on top of the MMO and like social messaging site podium tier list, I guess, and it was doing incredibly well. And obviously an increased number and time of user engagement would be really appealing to sponsorships and brand deals. This metric could have also been achieved by further sponsorships and brand deals, as they had a further integration with MySpace in 2009, having the Meez website fully accessible from the MySpace website and vice versa, which was a win-win for both platforms. But despite the growing success of Meez, by this time, creator Sean Ryan had actually moved on to new ventures in the online gaming industry and left the board with the new 2008 capital structure. John Cahill, who had been taking on both COO and president roles since September of 2007 at Donner Media, took the CEO position in December of 2008. He led the further integration that we just spoke about with MySpace and also had visions for other integrations, as he mentioned on a VentureBeat article that MySpace is the first of a number of sites that will integrate the Meez Nation virtual world into a branded site. He also reported that Meez had a positive cash flow as of July 2009. And then for the next couple of years, everything seemed fine. Meez was incredibly popular and had a growing list of users who devoted a lot of their time and money to their personal accounts. Meezers were able to forge online relationships, express their creativity through fashion, which is evident by the amount of Meez video content and media that is still available on YouTube. People were making music videos, series similar to like the Machinist stuff with The Sims, and one creator named Selly grew a channel sharing outfits, hacks, and how-to guides for the site. However, as we know, as much as these sites were and could be a really positive and good thing for people, they obviously had their negativity and bad points. Bullying, hacking, and other similar negative experiences obviously occurred on this site, as they will. But for an MMO, a lot of people talk online and reflect about how safe the site actually was, and how easy it was to successfully report things like this if and when they occurred. I joined Meez in autumn of 2007. Meez employees kept up with the increasing amount of abuse reports that hit their inboxes daily, which made Meez.com tolerable to users, because most of the folks whom were left were friendly. The classic version of Meez was hacked a total of 2 or 3 times, and the developers were on top of the issue to make sure it was resolved. Obviously, this is someone's personal reflection on the site, so it's not going to be the same for everyone who played and engaged with Meez.com. But it does seem that this classic version of Meez was quite safe. Users and players of sites like this commonly find ways to hack the game, as we saw earlier with the clothing glitches, which enabled people to express more creativity with clothing choices. But hacking in-game currency like the coins of Meez is a different ballpark altogether, and it can actually directly negatively affect the site and lead to a potential loss of income. And if you mix this in with the fact that by the end of 2009, Cahill shared that Meez was no longer raising money from investors, this could be what led to the beginning of the end. Beta Meez. I'm not entirely sure when Beta Meez was announced, but I feel like it could be anywhere between 2012 and 2015. According to a petition created by Meez YouTuber Selly, the site had drastically changed in the few recent years, and on April 27, 2015, admins announced about migrating everyone over to the new Meez, Beta Meez, and Meez Mobile. Even though the beta option had been released and was available for Meezers to use for a while, the classic version was actually the preferred and favorite version of users. Now, this was for many valid reasons, and Meezers spoke to admins about these and about why they hated the new Beta Meez so much. And of course they didn't listen. Or maybe they did, but it was just out of their power to act upon it. There are many opinions and lots of evidence online as to why Beta Meez was so viscerally hated by users, but most worryingly to me is the fact that the overall integrity and security of the site was so strongly reduced, with hackers running wild and nasty happenings being completely pushed aside by admins. One user on Trustpilot recounts, "Soon after beta became the official Meez.com, it was hit with numerous hacking attempts, which left the website down for days to weeks because the developers took the option to just wait out the attacks, not seeming to be concerned about the credit card numbers Meezers had saved in their database. All of these hackers had to do was hack into profiles and go to the credit card page where everything was saved for a user if they wanted a quick transaction." Now, we know that obviously hacking sites wasn't quite this simple, but it is quite terrifying when you think about the fact that the user range for this site in 2012 was between 15 and 20 years of age, and the majority of that age gap is probably using their parents' bank in order to fund their purchases for Meez. So imagine how much money hackers actually had access to if they were able to successfully access someone's financial information. The few Meezers who still use the site apparently found it impossible to report bullying and inappropriate behavior, as abuse reports stopped being the top priority of the developers. Aside from security and safety concerns, it seemed like Meez.com was drained of what made it so lovable and appealing in the first place. A lot of the customization aspects of the website were scrapped in favor of producing more income, as Selly reports on how the beta rooms were filled with commercials and ads. We missed the old rooms where you could choose your own song. The radios, as mentioned before, were now set to play specific playlists, and rooms were restricted to a smaller capacity of users. It seemed that the initial draw and love of customization on the site was being reduced, which really makes me think that the idea of earning money and sustaining the site financially was more important to the team at the time, which obviously is important if you want to keep a site up and running, but there is a fine balance between making financially good decisions that perhaps aren't going to be the best for people using the site, but are crucial in able to keep it running, and then also making decisions that are actually going to make people happy that don't require financial income. They took away really trivial things, which might not seem like a big issue to some people, but to some users they really were. For example, they removed the body shape customization from the shop, and they also took away cross-dressing, which, if you're someone who finds your identity in choosing those customizations online and you are able to express yourself truthfully by using that, that's really devastating and heartbreaking, and it's gonna feel like you've been ignored and pushed aside which is completely gonna destroy and ruin your commitment to a site. The Meez Maker, the avatar creation thing, also became really buggy. The pricey animations that people had bought were completely deleted and removed, and nicknames could no longer be changed, which again seems like a small issue, but was another big thing about the customization of the site. The Meez team was making their fan base extremely disappointed and angry, and we've all seen where this inevitably leads. Without warning or disclosure to existing Meezers, the Meez site officially shut down in December of 2017, with the domain expiring in early 2018. It seems that Cahill, who was CEO and president, had already jumped ship earlier that year in June of 2017, leaving both Meez.com and OpenWager, which was a social casino platform that was spun out of Meez. This OpenWager site was sold to VGW Holdings the same year that Meez was shut down. Now, behind the seemingly derelict state of the Meez.com site, Glassdoor employee reviews give a really good insight into what could have been the final nail in the coffin for Meez.com and Donnerwood Media. Of the 5 employee reviews that are still up on Glassdoor for Donnerwood Management and Meez.com, 4 explicitly state that management was a key issue in the company. Incompetent management, no company culture, and lack in having structure and organization. The company lacked the knowledge in the direction and vision they saw or wanted to take for the organization. This left poor benchmarks for measuring success. Needs better management in all departments who can communicate the direction of the company and future goals. Another advises them that sometimes it's easier to start from the ground up than to continue to band-aid together a broken product. The description of Meez as a broken product, I think, perfectly fits the way that the Meez.com site felt to users at the time. And knowing what happened to Meez just a year later, I feel like this employee was giving a really good, visceral, and visual metaphor for what was going on behind Meez and maybe what led to its closure. Now that we've discovered together the history and had a look at the timeline of Meez.com, we can finally piece together and answer why the site closed. If you've stuck around for all of my videos on social MMOs of the 2000s, you'll kind of be aware that during the 2010s, they just seemed to sort of dwindle out in popularity as the years went by. And I imagine this is probably a really big influence as to why Meez.com came to an end. But there were also other faults. Hold that thought. Okay. Can you see this? Yes. So this is the MMO triangle of death, or death triangle as I have named it. I'm not going to call this a theory because I feel like we all know the sort of like broad reasons as to why MMOs fail and eventually die. So there are 3 main triggers that once they are all met and the specific like circumstances around them are met, will eventually lead to the death and end of an MMO. Any of these can start the vicious cycle. Once one starts, it's really easy to fall into the next and then the third, and then it just keeps repeating itself until the MMO ends. No, my script! Oh my god, I'm gonna have to read off my phone. The board was just too much. Specifically for Meez as an MMO, I think the eventual death and downfall led with the falling of users. Some of the decisions that were made by the production team in order to sort of further Meez and progress it and make it attractive to new users were questionable for the committed and older user base and fan base. And I truly and personally think that Beta Meez was a real last-ditch effort and attempt to revive the Meez site, especially with the popularity and like increasing technology of iPads and how much mobile game craze was increasing. I feel like by 2016 it was like really prevalent, and as much as they used it to try and save Meez, I really think it was its biggest flaw. As user numbers decrease and fall, we then see that sponsorships and brand deals stop coming in, as businesses and companies no longer feel that it's a viable or worthwhile investment to feature their products on their site. So with falling users, we then have a lack of money and income. So obviously we know with Meez that a really big part of sustaining the site was having sponsorships, brand deals, and having users buying new fashions and outfits, animations, etc. And also the fact that the site was so hackable in terms of getting around that paywall of in-game currency probably had a really big hit on the financial stability and like income for the site. And I wonder if, like the spun-off casino site that Cahill started, I wonder if he tried to sell Meez like that site, found that it probably wasn't appealing to other businesses to take on and try and fix. And given the state of the site at the time when Cahill sold the like spun-off casino game, I imagine that Meez really wasn't that attractive to potential buyers. It was probably seen as more of a time-consuming and like resource-consuming thing to fix and rebuild, rather than a like potential and like worthwhile investment. And with this lack of money and therefore lack of resources, the Meez team was sealing their own fate, which leads to management making really questionable and desperate measures. I put desperate management as the like caption for this one because I wasn't sure how to phrase it in a way that sort of encapsulated the point I was trying to hit. So we're just going to call it desperate management because low-key that's what they are. Beta Meez was the sort of first sign that they were making desperate moves and decisions in order to revive and refinance the site. Given the reviews of employees that came out towards the end of Meez's lifetime, I feel like it's really clear that the leadership team and the people who were the sort of figureheads of the company, Donnerwood Media and Meez.com, had really lost their inspiration and passion for Meez as a site and weren't really sure where they wanted to take it or what they wanted to do with it. Then obviously eventually ripples down to the workers who are trying their best to keep the site alive, meet KPIs, reach their goals, which just wasn't happening no matter how hard they tried. It's also mentioned on the site a couple of times that communication was really ineffective, so I imagine that a lot of team members were probably left in the dark and had no clue what was going on. Even if Meezers and users of the site were reporting back to them about these things that were happening, they probably didn't even know, and the people who were responsible in ensuring that these things didn't happen probably weren't even aware. As the team behind the game begins making these stressful decisions in a last-ditch attempt to try and save the site, this leads to falling users as they remove favorite elements of the site, like customization, for example. The site begins becoming unsafe as they can't afford to employ the staff to go through reports, maintain the filter system for chat. So users start leaving and no longer using the site as it is negatively impacting them rather than being a positive, enjoyable thing that they do in their free time. I feel like this can be applied to a lot of other MMOs, not just Meez, and I feel like this is a general understanding and a good way to sort of visualize why and how MMOs eventually die. And like I said, this savage cycle continues to repeat itself until the site physically cannot sustain itself and it just breaks, and the decision to close it eventually occurs, and it is left forevermore to the realms of the internet in people's memories where it could only exist in imagination. Right? I have returned to the chair. There has been many a petition to revive and even at the time to keep Meez alive. As I mentioned many times during this video, Meez was so loved by users, old and new, and it really meant a lot to people, and people put a lot of their money, time and energy into this site, and it was a big part of some people's life. I'm assuming if you're watching this video that you're either a lover of social virtual worlds or you really loved Meez and were a fan of it and used it when it was a thing. And if this is so, you may or may not be aware that Meez Nation is actually making a comeback at this very moment. The site is currently being put together by a small team who are not affiliated in any way with Donnerwood Media or Meez.com. And I feel like it's so rare and special when these projects to bring back beloved sites and nostalgic like virtual worlds back into existence, when it actually works and it's actually happening, it feels so exciting. Like, I never played Meez, but I'm so excited for the people who are going to be able to return to these. I'm not going to delve into it too much, as once the site is actually up and running, I'll probably make a short video on it, and maybe even try playing it, as I never got to play this game in the past. But if you do fancy checking it out and tracking its progress, and maybe in the future playing it once it's completed, I will leave any links to any sort of sites which the team is running on, so that you can be in the loop and in the communication about what is happening with it. This one, I'm not gonna lie, this one really put me through it, and it really hurt my brain. When I was researching this, I physically had to make a timeline of what happened in the Meez storyline, because I was so freaking confused and I had a literal headache about Meez.com. Like, I literally sat here and was like, I can't. But I did it, and we're here. And I really, really hope you enjoyed it. And I think I lost a little bit of my sanity creating this video, so I would really appreciate it if you could show it some love, drop it a like if you did enjoy it, and if you want to see many, many more videos just like this one. As I mentioned, I am also on a mission to hit 2,000 otters or subscribers by the end of 2024, and I would really appreciate it if you could help me get there by clicking that subscribe button down below. Hydrate to stay great, get your daily calorie intake, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.